Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So I was talking with an old friend of mine that I've known for many, many, many years from Hollywood. And in the conversation, he referenced a game that we all used to play. Now, I was probably in my mid to late 20s, and we all hung out. We all lived in Hollywood. We all hung out together. And most of those guys, I wasn't in the entertainment industry. I was just a regular guy. Some of those guys were entertainment industry people. Nobody famous that you'd know. Some of them were band people, heavy metal bands. Nobody famous that you'd know. But we were buddies and we hung out all the time, and we liked to drink together. And with drinking together and a bunch of guys in the room, we would argue about sports and politics, right? I mean, you go to any bar and people are going to be bickering back and forth about shit like that, especially nowadays. You know, there used to be a rule in bars. This was the universal bar rule, that you never argued politics in a bar. And the TVs were never turned on the news. They were only sports. You wouldn't walk into a bar and they would have the news on, CNN or Fox or some shit. No way. And if you went up to somebody and started talking about the president or the foreign policy or taxes or any kind of shit, they'd say, hey, we don't talk about that stuff here. That was kind of the charm in bars. I don't drink anymore, and I don't go to bars anymore. I went to go visit my brother, who's often at a bar, and if I want to go see him, I go down there to see him. And I went down there the other weekend to go and visit him, say what's up, and they had the news on the TVs, and I was surprised. And people are in there bickering back and forth about the news, so I guess the old rules have changed. I'm just glad I'm not drinking anymore. But my buddy referenced this game that we played where when we were all arguing about who's right, you know, who has the correct statistic on the New York Yankees, you know, who is right about how many Super Bowls the Dallas Cowboys have won, or, you know, we'd argue about shit, and guys want to be right. When those would come up, we played this game about who's right, the who's right game. And we didn't have a name for it, but the way it worked was, if you were right, I had to give you $1. $1. Didn't just have to acknowledge that, well, you're right, and that's part of it. Yeah, I have to say those words, you're right, and I have to give you $1. And sometimes the arguments would last, and we'd always have to settle them with research. You know, I mean, you could walk out and not have the argument settled, but we all hung out all the time. The next day, if you know, whenever that issue's settled, somebody's going to be right and somebody's going to be wrong. It's the way it always works. And you better be prepared to fork over that buck and tell that motherfucker he's right. Give him his due, his respect. It's the right thing to do. And it was an interesting form of validation, of friendship, of respect, of honoring someone else's rightness, of another man's ability to be right about something. We kind of had fun with it, and you might take $4 from your buddy over the course of a night because he's running his mouth about something, and you had to correct him 4 different times, and you got $4 out of him, and he might get 3 of those dollars back if you start talking. I mean, you know, it was just a fun game that kept us all friends. Because you know how some people get really pissy about being right, being wrong. If they're proved wrong, they're just going to leave. They're going to take their toys and go home. They just turn into a little brat. There's a lot of guys that they want to fight if they're not right. And even if they're wrong, they still want to fight to prove that they're right. Because that's like their triggered response. They can go from rational to let's throw some dukes over just nothing. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen drunk motherfuckers fight over nothing. I've been in literally countless fights over nothing. Absolutely nothing. Can't even remember. I've had rivalries with people where I fought them multiple times and we hated each other. Had no idea why. No idea. Why do you hate that guy so much? I don't know, but I do. Fuck him. Fuck that motherfucker. This kept us from separating off like that because it's easy to kind of get pissy. This is happening in a lot of groups, social groups these days, because people are separating off into their various little camps. You know, with their tribal ideological camps, everybody kind of has this, you know, mentality nowadays, this triggered opposition to oppose everyone. You're left, I'm right. You're a blue pill, I'm red pill. It just goes down this whole rabbit hole. To more than just politics. It's almost anything nowadays. It's crazy. And people are separating off into religions, into genders, and we're turning all against each other on these beliefs. You used to be able to hang out with people and have completely different beliefs, and it would really be no big deal. It wouldn't be a deal breaker, I guess. More accurate way to put it. We could all be buddies. You could be whatever you want, whatever religion you want. I could be whatever religion I want. You could be whatever politics you want. I could be whatever politics I want. It could be conflicting, and we could all be really tight friends. That's not really happening so much anymore. People are kind of homogenizing. They just want to hang out with like people who are like them. Because we're kind of all stuck in this loop of confirmation bias where we just want to hear this regurgitated truth, this confirmation of what we believe. When we make a statement, we want people to be like, damn right, instead of, whoa, hell, wait a minute. I don't know, I think the dollar game is worth a try if you find yourself in a group of friends where you are having intense conversations. You don't have to call them arguments, but, you know, whatever. And there's a constant battle, a power struggle almost, of who's right and who's wrong. The trick with it is, though, is when someone's right, you have to be honest and acknowledge their rightness. That's the whole trick of the game. It doesn't work without that. If you're so stuck on being right and you can't give in, it's only $1. You'll get it back sometime. Nobody's right every time. I realize that with the game. Nobody's right always. Nobody's always right. You'll get that buck back. I used to take money from my buddy Brian all night long. And I'd just be like, hey, well, you can stop running your mouth anytime you want. I mean, you don't have to be making shit up. You can start doing more research anytime you want. Read the fucking newspaper before you come over here and want to start talking about this shit. You know, I'm going to call you out on if you're wrong. And if you're wrong, you better give me my fucking money. People started doing research. Motherfuckers would have 3-4 newspapers, go on the internet. They'd start doing research before they come by and drink some beer. And they'd be ready to fire off some facts. Show sources. That's a good thing. All of a sudden we turn from a bunch of dumb knuckleheads who were arguing about nonsense, ready to fight each other, into a bunch of little brainiac experts in various shit with little stacks of fucking $1 bills in front of us. I don't know. It's just all food for thought. Thanks for watching.